Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is your favorite show, Daily Calls, a show that addresses all your stock-specific queries. Well, after 10 days of pain, we're finally seeing a sea of green across the D Street today, be the Nifty Bank, the broader markets across sectoral wards. You can actually see a whole host of refreshing green on your screens today. In case you have now questions about whether the markets have bottomed out, whether the stocks in your portfolio you need to relook at them, try to average them up as they recover in trade, any and everything that you need to ask about your stock related portfolio, this is the right platform. The WhatsApp number is flashing on your screens. This is where you can send in your questions. Don't forget to mention your name, location and your contact details when you send in your queries here. And alternatively, you can also use our YouTube platform where you're watching the show live on to send me all your questions there as well. I can already see a lot of questions coming in, so let me welcome all our viewers. We have Avdesh Thakur, Satya, Avnish Chaudhary. We also have a lot of viewers joining in on our WhatsApp number as well with their questions. So warm welcome to all of you. Keep sending all your questions and we'll be taking all these questions over the next 40 minutes or with our guest today. But let's actually look at the market sentiment right now. What a bright screen. You can see a 1.3% uptick on the Nifty. We're back above 22,366 now, 283 points of a jump. And that's after a long haul that we've seen such a strong momentum back. Remember, this has come after 2 days of Nifty really trying to protect not to slip below 22,000 levels as well. Yesterday was a pain point, but look at the way things have recovered despite concerns across the globe on Donald Trump tariffs as well. Key sectors that are shining the brightest today: metals 3% up. You also have PSU stocks that's nearly 3% higher as well. Autos are driving in the fastest lane, 2.7% up. IT stocks have recovered. Such a strong momentum can be seen across the board, both large and mid caps. You can see a 2.6% uptick here. Realty, oil and gas are also showing 2% uptick as well. At least if you look at it, there are about 8 sectoral indices that are higher by over 2% in trade today. Now, when you look at the India VIX, that's the only index that's down, 1.5% down at 13.6 odd levels today. Top movers on the Nifty, you have Trent, that's up by 6.5%. 5,311 is back on Trent. M&M, 4.3% higher. Power Grid, Adani Ports, Adani Enterprises, Adani stocks in clear momentum. Let's actually look at the losers list that's shrunk now just about 5 stocks on the Nifty that are lower in trade. You have Bajaj Finance that's still lower by 2%. HDFC Bank, IndusInd Bank, Bajaj Finserv and Grasim as the stocks that are down in trade. But in the F&O space also, we have some interesting names like Coforge, that's up by about 9.6%. You have Adani Green Energy. So again, it's the Adani Group stocks that are garnering some momentum yet again. IFL Finance is up as well. But on the lower end, do we have any stocks that are still in pain? BSE, that's the stock that's still down by about 5.5%. Remember, this morning we did tell you that when you talk about the NSE, the National Stock Exchange has changed its expiry date to Monday now for weekly, monthly, quarterly and even half-yearly contracts of F&O. And you actually see a whole host of impact on BSE, probably with nerves shifting and volumes shifting to the other exchange. And that's what is causing the nervousness right there. Let's actually look at the metal stocks which are on the top gear at this point in time. Metal space, you can actually see momentum on Jindal Stainless. You have Hindustan Copper, Vedanta, Tata Steel, NMDC, Nalco Steel Authority as all those stocks that are buzzing with sharp and smart gains across the board. Let's also look at some of the other pockets within the autos. Like I said, M&M is of course contributing as far as the Nifty is concerned, and of course that's one of the top movers on the auto index again. But beyond that also, you have Eicher Motors that's now nearing the 5,000 mark, 4,980 now. You have Samvardhan, Motherson, Exide Industries, Bosch. So you have all the auto ancillary stocks also really participating. Tata Motors is recovering as well. So that should heave a sigh of relief for all those investors of higher levels on Tata Motors, 3% higher. So some recovery on that front as well. Ashok Leyland, MRF, TVS Motors, all of them are up and about. Even the tire makers. In fact, you also have Polo Tires that's also up in trade. So these are also, up and about. Let's actually look at the IT pack as well. Of course, Coforge is something that did get brokerage house upgrades today, and that's the stock that really rallied the most within the IT pack. Now up 10% odd at 7942. Persistent Systems is also tagging along about 5.7% higher for this one. You also have L&T Technology Services, Emphasis, and Tech Mahindra as the other stocks that are buzzing in trade. Let's actually look at some of the other stocks within the oil and gas pack. Remember, this is interesting because the crude oil prices particularly, they have been edging lower, both for Brent as well as for the WTI crude as well. When we look at the Brent crude, and of course there is this OPEC plus allies which are now looking to increase production that will further increase the supply across the globe and puts further pressure on the oil prices, and therefore you could see some more pressure as far as the oil and gas, the crude oil prices are concerned. But that has in turn benefited the oil marketing companies, the downstream companies which have to really import oil, and therefore you actually see upticks across IOC on HPCL, BPCL. And then let's look at some of the other pockets. PSU banks about 2.3% higher. That's another one that's actually buzzing in trade. About, all the stocks which are buzzing are Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank, Punjab and Sindh Bank, you have Bank of Maharashtra, Union Bank, all of them upwards of about 2.5 to 4 odd percent. That's the kind of move that we are seeing across the board. Then let's actually look at the small caps and the mid caps as well. That's another space that has been under pressure over the last many days. You have actually seen these spaces crash quite a bit, of course, in the recent sell-off. These are the two pockets that have been seeing denting of sentiments, the maximum for the mid caps, which are down about 21% from the highs, 24% decline for the small caps from the peak as well that we saw in September of 2024. But some recovery over here will also provide cushion to all the retail investors, since their approach, investments in these pockets are severe as well. Let's also look at where are the declines. It's actually a good screen because you see all the stocks that are higher within the Nifty, barring those 3-4 stocks. And sectorally, of course, all the action is up and about. Let's actually look at the Nifty broadest index to see where the momentum is. There are many stocks like Signity Technologies. You also have stocks like Cross Limited, Gabriel. You have Nitin Spinner, Sangvi Movers, a lot of auto ancillaries also that are garnering some traction in trade today. Okay, time now to welcome our guest on board. Rahul Ghosh joins in, the CEO of Hedge.in, to share with us his views on the markets as well as to take a lot of your questions. Rahul, morning, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining in. We'll start away taking the questions. Viewers are waiting for their questions, and we'll come to you for a market outlook in a later part of our conversation. Avdish Thakur has asked a question on IRFC, again from the railway space. वो यहाँ पर पूछना चाहते हैं कि अभी एंट्री लेना यहाँ पर ठीक रहेगा या फिर अभी वेट करें. जिस तरीके से बाउंस बैक आ रहा है पीएसयू स्टॉक्स में, रेलवेज में, डिफेंस में, आईआरएफसी को खास तौर पर देखते हुए आपको क्या लगता है, अभी खरीदारी करनी चाहिए?
First of all, good afternoon and thank you for having me. तो ऐसे falling market में to cherry pick stocks that are in absolute lows is not a good idea. Prima facie, let me first say that. आप अगर bottom fish करना चाहते हैं, 23,000 पे भी लगा था मार्केट रुक जाएगा, 22,000 पे भी लग रहा है मार्केट रुक जाएगा. बट अगर आपको स्टॉक स्पेसिफिक एंटर करना है, जो एंटर करना ही चाहिए लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए, बिकॉज ये लेवल्स बेहतरीन है, तो उन स्टॉक्स को पिक कीजिए जो कम फॉल किया है इन दिस एंटायर डाउन मूव. आईआरएफसी उनमें से एक नहीं है. स्टॉक हैज हैड अ स्टेलर डाउन ट्रेंड, और ये जो अप मूव आया है वो पहले लेवल ऑफ पड़ाव भी क्रॉस नहीं कर पाया. इट इज नॉट इवन क्रॉस द फर्स्ट रेजिस्टेंस. तो माय आंसर विल बी नो, नॉट टू accumulate this stock right now and to look for better names in this falling market.
Okay. Let's actually look at some other questions. We have Avnish Chaudhary writing in. यहाँ पर ये पूछ रहे हैं कि इरिडा में क्या 144 पर एवरेज किया इन्होंने ऑलरेडी किया है. एक्चुअली इनकी परचेज लेवल थी 208 की इरिडा में, फिर जब ये स्टॉक नीचे आया तो 144 पर 144 पर इन्होंने एवरेज किया. नाउ इट्स स्लाइटली हायर देन दैट लेवल, 148 ऑड लेवल्स. यहाँ पर वो अब जानना चाहते हैं कि इरिडा पर आउटलुक क्या है आपका. अगेन फ्रॉम द रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी स्पेस, समथिंग दैट हैज सीन अ लॉट ऑफ करेक्शन इन द रीसेंट डाउनटिक इन द मार्केट.
My advice to the person would be to exit if they have averaged at 144, whatever they have averaged. Because the same hypothesis holds good that this is a sharply downward trending stock. It's actually trending in a downward trending channel as well. And the next bout of momentum can come only if a close happens above 190. It's very important to understand that IREDA from 300 has come to 150. The stock has lost 50%. So if it has lost 50% and right at the bottom we buy, there is no certainty that another 10% it can't fall. Wait for momentum. When will momentum come? At a price above 190, which is the level he should average or she should average.
Okay, let's take another one. This one is from Satya, and Satya wants to know if you could suggest any three strong technically and fundamentally good stocks for long term in the mid and the small cap space particularly. So people are still looking at the broader set of the market in hopes that they could find some, bottom fishing and value picks at this point in time. Any top 2 or 3 ideas that you have also identified in the recent downtake within the mid and small caps, Rahul?
There are a lot of good ideas in even at current levels when markets are at 22,200, but I wouldn't suggest them only in the mid and small cap space. So, firstly, as a disclosure, that any recommendation that we give, it's always better to cross check with your financial advisor. Uh, but if specifically we talk about names, I think Tata Motors, L&T, and HDFC Bank, these are three names that are looking good. They are not small and mid caps, unfortunately, but it's better to be with bigger, more populist names at this point and juncture of the market. Also, Asian Paints from the FMCG sector looks good on the charts. L&T though has corrected almost 25% from the highs, and looking at the infra push that is happening in the last 5 years, likely to continue in the next five, all these stocks could be prudent bets in for the future.
Okay, we'll take another question. This one is from Peter Raj, and his question is, do we see this reversal in the markets today as a dead cat bounce, or is the market really has made a bottom and is now on the reversal trend? That's a question that you can answer, Rahul. What do you really foresee? Would you see that this is just an interim relief, and would you probably ask investors to be cautious even now, or do you think they should again believe that the markets are on a recovery path now?
So the level to watch out from recovery perspective is a closing above 23,000. Even if markets go up to 22,500 or 700, which can look great on the charts, which can
Yeah.
look very pleasing that a 600-700 point up move has come, it should not be construed as a trend change. I have said this before, I will say it again. 2025 is going to be a lackluster year. The highest top we see from our analysis is 27,200, which is just 1,000 points away from the last high. I'm saying that's the absolute top that we see. But you're going to see a lot of sideways movement in 2025. And if you're looking to go long and you're not stock specific, that is, you're looking to go long on the index, that should happen only if a close happens above 23,000 odd level. Not before that. At this level, it's better to be stock specific.
Okay, fair point. We have another question from Ankur Modi. Says, hi Sakshi, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for asking. Ankur, I'm doing well and I hope the same for you. His question is on summer related stocks, if you could suggest, Rahul, for him. We have already started to see some ticks on the higher side on consumer durable names like Voltas or a Blue Star. Of course, with summers knocking the doors here in North India, there is fear of heat wave also starting pretty soon in the early summer. So summers are, onsetting early this time. What's your own suggestion as far as the summer related stocks are concerned?
Well, absolutely, you're right. Summer is setting early. In fact, in Bombay, in February itself, we started feeling hot, which was quite surprising because finally Jan was a month that we saw a little bit of pleasantness.
Yeah.
Coming back to counters, Voltas is the better bet I would I would suggest compared to Blue Star. Even at current market price, it does not look bad. One can look to accumulate it for targets of about 1,500.
Okay, fair point. We have another question. This is from Mr. Satyan. He requests to be answered in Hindi or in English as far as his question is concerned. We'll take your question in English, sir. So he wants to know on the defense related counters, HAL and Cochin Shipyard. What's your suggestion here? He has a 1 to 2 year time frame. Should he be really looking at the current levels to accumulate these two stocks, HAL and Cochin Shipyard?
Yeah, HUL, definitely. Why? Because FMCG as a pack,
No, HAL.
like
So
I was saying,
Hindustan Aeronautics is what his question is on, from the defense
okay,
pack.
apologies for that.
Yeah.
So HL would still be a little bit on wait and watch mode. The
Okay.
reason for this being there's a supply zone at 3900, which is a long time supply zone. On the daily chart as well, dismal, no momentum, downward trending channel, definitely not a good buy right now. With respect to Cochin Shipyard, a better stock. Why do I suggest this to be a better stock? Because it's forming a base currently. If you look at the daily chart, it has made two lows, forming a sideways base, and a breakout above the 1400 level would be a good place to enter, in my opinion.
Okay, fair point. We'll take another question then. This is from Mr. Aman S. Aneja. Says, hi Sakshi, how are you? I'm well, Mr. Aneja. Thank you for asking, and I hope the same for you too. His question is on two stocks, NetWeb Technologies and Anantraj. He already has existing position here. 20 shares of NetWeb at 1810. It slipped below to 1511 right now, although the stock is higher by 5% today. Anantraj is the second stock that he has in his portfolio. 550 is the price at which he has about 80 stocks in his portfolio. Again, this one has slipped slight a bit from his own purchase price. These are the two stocks that in fact, if you will also remember, Rahul, that were very, very volatile and did see a knee-jerk reaction when DeepSeek emerged as a big controversy as the artificial giants that also caused a lot of stir in the US related semiconductors technology stocks like Nvidia. And back home in India, these were the two stocks that were seen as ones which are working with data centers and semiconductors, and these stocks felt the heat. Any suggestion on these two stocks right now?
So I think the last time I was on your show about 2 weeks back, about 70% of the callers, I told them not to buy at that juncture, and everybody
Yeah.
watching the show would have said, "Rahul to kuch buy karne ko bolta hi nahi." And in hindsight, it proved out to be a better decision. The same case over here. Unfortunately, both stocks are not giving us a signal to buy. Not because that the down move can turn around, but because fundamentally on the charts, the stocks are weak. There is no evidence to suggest there is a turnaround. There is no volume push. Your GAN indicators and other popular technical indicators have not given us a signal. I would suggest to stay away.
Okay, got that. Let's actually take another question then. This one is from one of our other viewers again on our YouTube platform. This is from Mr. Subramaniam. He says, Sakshi, I bought 50 shares of Cummins India 3 months back at 3475. So I want to know, this stock has really slipped quite a bit. Should I book my losses and exit, or should I continue to hold on? Cummins India. What would you say here, Rahul?
So, could you repeat the entry price at which the caller has gotten it
3475,
at?
3475.
I would suggest the caller to hold on because he's weathered most of the pain. And Cummins India on the daily chart and on the weekly chart is forming a good base. If this base breakout happens on the upside, he could see his entry levels in the next couple of months. So, because he's taken most of the pain, I wouldn't suggest him to exit now. Hold on. But I would suggest at 3400, when he is at break even, to give a call back or drop back a message to see if he should continue holding it or he should exit and reposition his money somewhere else.
Okay, got that. Let's take another question. This one is from Neha Sharma. Okay, we'll take another question. This one is, I think, on a penny stock that she is asking. We'll take another one. This is from Mr. Srikant M, and he's from Mysore. He wants to know about Geo Finance, and he wants to know that I have bought about 345 shares at 1000 levels. No, bought at 345, the quantity is 1000. That's more likely the case that would have been 345 anything that you'd like to suggest on geofinance? Today there is a volume as well as a surge of 5%, stock coming back to its glory days.
I would suggest that if he has some more capital, he can average it as well, of course, after checking with his financial advisor. But Geofinance has good prospects for the future. The stock I know is in a textbook pattern on the downtrend,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of signs and candle formations that suggesting that the down move is very less from here, and the path of least resistance is on the upside. So we expect, and of course, this is based on our analysis, that by the end of this year, Geo Financial can be at the previous or close to the previous high levels. This is at the end of the next financial year, is what we foresee. So it's a good bet even at this price.
Good bet even at this price. Okay, fair point. We'll take another question, and this one is from, okay, Vinod Chaudhary. He writes in, hi Sakshi, thank you for doing this show for us retail investors. Thank you, Vinodji, for writing in. He says, I want to know if in case this bounce is a dead cat bounce, can I still go ahead and book my losses for tax loss harvesting in the stocks like Jupiter Wagons and HPL Electric to buy them again? Well, there is always a risk, Vinod. So whenever you go for tax loss harvesting, if you sell it right now and you know you want to buy it even the next day or the next to next day, just like how we have seen a strong spurt, you may actually end up buying higher. But that's the risk that you have to do with tax loss harvesting. I'll just ask Rahul to give a sense of how should investors and retail investors really look at this fact of tax loss harvesting for their positions in the month of March. A lot of questions are coming in for that.
Unfortunately, I'm not a tax expert. There are a lot of nuances with respect to tax law
Yeah.
harvesting on selling on March and people buying back in April and people booking losses and buying back the next day, so on and so forth. From purely a chart point of view, JWL is not going to give you any wild swings on either side for him to do what he wants to do. Of course, that he would have to check with a separate tax
Sure.
executive. The chart structure, absolutely dismal, no signs of recovery. From 750 to 300, 65% of the stock wiped out. I don't foresee it coming back to even half of this level in 2025, to be honest, because the candle formation and the volumes on the downside have been very, very fierce. So he will have to wait very, very patiently, unfortunately.
Okay, fair point. I hope this has helped you out in understanding at least about the stock that you hold in your portfolio. Separately, you can speak to your tax expert as to whether it makes sense for tax loss harvesting on these stocks right now. Let's take a caller now with us. We have Mr. Ram Desai from Sanchor in Rajasthan. Mr. Desai, namaskar. कैसे हैं आप?
मैम बढ़िया। मैम मेरे पास दो शेयर है, एक
जी।
टाटा पावर है और एक वारी रिन्यूएबल्स है।
ठीक है,
और टाटा पावर में 350 की बाइंग है।
ठीक है।
मैं
वाओ।
देख शेयर है। और वारी वारी रिन्यूएबल में 40 रुपीज के प्राइस से लिए हुए हैं, 150 शेयर।
तो आपने टाटा पावर आज ही लिया है क्या?
नो, 1 ईयर बैक।
1 ईयर बैक बाद आपका ये प्राइस आया है, ठीक है। और वारी रेन्यूएबल्स आपने लिया है 40 रुपए के भाव पर। ओके,
22 में लिया है, 40 रुपीज में था, 150 शेयर है।
चलिए।
वो 3000 भी जाके आया है ऐसा।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, आपने यहाँ पर काफ़ी अच्छा प्राइस पर एंट्री किया और आपने बहुत ही बढ़िया यहाँ पर रिटर्न्स देखे भी हैं। अभी फ्यूचर ये जानना चाहते हैं इन दोनों स्टॉक्स के ऊपर। हम जानते हैं कि रेन्यूएबल एनर्जी एक ऐसी थीम है राहुल जी, जो कि एक लंबे अरसे की थीम मानी जा रही है, क्योंकि कंट्री का फोकस रेन्यूएबल स्पेस पर काफ़ी बढ़ने वाला है। ऐसे में टाटा पावर में भी हमने काफ़ी मोमेंटम देखा, हाल ही जब पिछली रैली आई थी। वारी रेन्यूएबल्स में भी काफ़ी मोमेंटम आया था, जैसे कि हमारे व्यूअर ने भी देखा कि ये काफ़ी स्टॉक आगे बढ़कर आया है, वापस कंसोलिडेट हुआ है। इन दोनों स्टॉक्स पर इनके लिए क्या राय रहेगी आपको?
मेरा राय यहाँ पे होगा कि वारी रेन्यूएबल्स का इस तरह के स्टॉक से बाहर रहना ही बेटर है, क्योंकि आप देखिए अपर सर्किट्स लोअर सर्किट्स कितने बार होता है। कुछ लोग का कहना है कि शायद ऑपरेटर ड्रिवन भी हो सकता है। ऑफ कोर्स आई हैव नो इन्फॉर्मेशन ऑन दैट, बट आउट ऑफ द टू काउंटर्स पावर इज अ सेक्टर एज अ होल दैट हमें बेटर लगता है। ना उसमें टाटा पावर, अदानी पावर, होस्ट ऑफ नेम्स आपको मिलेंगे। आप शायद टाटा पावर की बात कर रहे थे, तो उसमें भी पेन फैक्टर्ड इन है। तो द अमाउंट ऑफ पेन दैट यहाँ इस लेवल से आपको मिल सकता है वो कम होगा, और ऊपर की साइड की प्रोस्पेक्ट्स बेटर हैं। तो टाटा पावर पे बने रहना चाहिए। वारी अनफॉर्चुनेटली रिन्यूएबल पुश के कारण, प्योरली फ्रॉम प्राइस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू आप नोटिस करेंगे 8,000 रुपए पे था, फिर आई थिंक स्प्लिट हुआ, अभी 800 रुपए पे चल रहा है। नॉट अ गुड बेट स्ट्रक्चरली।
ओके, फेयर पॉइंट। आई होप मिस्टर देसाई आपको अपने राय मिल गई होगी यहाँ पर। मोमिता फ्रॉम कोलकाता राइट्स इन सेज, हाय साक्षी, गुड एंड ग्रीन आफ्टरनून टू you. Well, green afternoon to you as well, Momita. That's a wonderful way to really put it. And absolutely right you are. You know, after so many days of pain, when you actually see this bright green on the screen, it is definitely a green afternoon. And I hope it only gets into a deeper and a darker shade of green going forward from here. I want to know from you. So her question is that I want to know from you on DMart. My average price is 3,711. What should be my strategy on DMart now? Again, DMart is a story, Rahul, which has in the recent past seen a lot of competition heat really pinning down the prices for the stock. Competition from new age tech companies, competition from quick commerce companies. Even though the company is large scale, has deeper pockets than all of these new age companies, has had a solid business model, has been one of the favorite stocks of traders and investors in the past as well, and many of them also have this stock as a core portfolio stock. How would you really advise somebody who bought the stock at 3711 to look at DMart afresh?
Now, first at the outset, I'll tell you that 3711, his entry price should definitely, in my opinion, come about. But the quick commerce frenzy that is causing some trouble to DMart is only going to intensify. It's not like your Zeptos of the world are scaling down. If
Yeah.
at all, they are scaling up. So it is easier for a Zepto to scale than I believe than a DMart to scale, because DMart primarily use the brick and mortar approach, and of course they have moved into deliveries since then. But the speed at which and the capital access that a Zepto would have, or any of the other players like your Blinkits and etc., would definitely continue to see a little stagnant growth for players like DMart. I think where DMart outshines is in the local markets more, and more savvy users tend to use your Blinkits or Swiggy, Instamarts, and Zeptos of the world. But that is also changing because the supply chain that these people are setting up on the rural side as well. So stock would continue to be under pressure. He can see his entry price. I would suggest better to be with a stock with a more certain future and exit at as close to his entry price as possible.
Okay, I hope this has helped you out in understanding what your strategy must be. Let's take another caller with us. We have Kalpesh Patel from Mumbai on the phone line. Kalpesh ji, namaskar, कैसे हैं आप?
नमस्कार मैम, एकदम बढ़िया हूँ। आज मैंने ग्रीन मार्केट में भी ये जोमेटो का शेयर शॉर्ट सेल किया है। इसको टोमेटो जैसा कलर करना है इसको, तो क्या ये टारगेट इसका 210 और 180 तक पॉसिबल है? और कैन आई शॉर्ट सेल एंड दिस लेवल एट गोल्ड?
किस पे और आप शॉर्ट सेल करना चाहते हैं? गोल्ड पर?
गोल्ड गोल्ड सोना सोना सोना
गोल्ड पर करना चाहते हैं। चलिए
और उसका
ठीक है, एक पर
81,000 कैन पॉसिबल और नॉट? 81,000।
अच्छा ठीक है, मैं आपको राय दिलवाती हूँ। पहले हम जोमेटो की बात करते हैं। राहुल जी, यहाँ पर ये अभी भी शॉर्ट सेल करके चल रहे हैं जोमेटो पर 230 के भाव पर। उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि 210 या 185 के लेवल्स आ जाए। इवन इन दिस रिकवरी मार्केट ही थिंक्स दैट देयर कुड बी अ डाउनटिक दैट ही कुड एक्सपेक्ट। व्हाट अबाउट जोमेटो? वी हैव सीन द स्टॉक प्राइस कम डाउन टू व्हाट 204 odd levels, and then from then the stock has been bouncing back slowly and gradually. What would you say on Zomato?
I would suggest him to exit his position. A short sell might not be a very prudent on this counter. On the long run, I expect Zomato to do well. Let me put that out in the beginning. और शॉर्ट सेल इस मार्केट में करना चाहिए जब आपको कोई लेवल मिल जाए ना। आप जोमेटो नोटिस कीजिए, मार्केट जो है लास्ट 10 दिन से नीचे की तरफ आ रहा है, बट स्टॉक साइडवेज है। अगर शॉर्ट ही करना है, जहां पे मोमेंटम है शॉर्ट साइड की तरफ, वो एक बेटर बेट होगा शॉर्ट करने के लिए। दूसरा बेट उन्होंने गोल्ड का कहा, तो एट द आउटसेट में कह दूं कि गोल्ड और सिल्वर दोनों पे मैं लॉन्ग टर्म बुलिश हूं। सिल्वर मोर देन गोल्ड, टू बी ऑनेस्ट। बट इस लेवल पे शॉर्ट सेल करना, आई वुड नॉट बी एबल टू गिव द राइट एडवाइस अनफॉर्चुनेटली, बिकॉज ऑफ अ बायस ऑफ हैविंग लॉन्ग टर्म बुलिशनेस एज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट।
Okay, let's look at some other questions that are coming in on our YouTube as well. We have this question from Mr. Dada Radhi, and he says, good afternoon, Sakshi, I want to buy RVNL. Is it the right time to enter the stock amidst the current correction, or the stock can further correct? How would you really advise him on RVNL?
Whether it is the right time to enter the stock, I would say let us wait a little bit. 370 के ऊपर look to enter the stock. That would be my suggestion over here. 337 पे चल रहा है. There is a resistance at 370. Only above that, he can take a long. Same textbook downward trending channel, and with good volumes. If you look at the candle of 1st Feb, it has had very, very sharp volume and has been an engulfing candle, which
Yeah.
has started the next bout of down move. So no, at this price, I would advise otherwise.
Okay, fair point. We have another question from Gul. She says, I want to make a fresh entry in hospital stocks. So, out of the 4 stocks that I'm looking at, which are the 2 better stocks to invest in? Apollo, Medanta, Max Healthcare, or Narayana Hrudayalaya? I have a 1-year time frame, and she wants to invest in 2 hospital stocks. Which ones would you recommend?
So we'll start with Apollo Hospitals. The stock has reached a good level, and a bounce above 6,400 odd can see good amount of accumulation on the counter. So Apollo Hospital is a candidate I would suggest. The second candidate that I would suggest is Vedanta, but a little bit waiting on this. A close above 445 again would be a better bet on Vedanta. So Apollo and Vedanta in my picks.
Fair point. Let's actually look at some other questions that are coming in. This is from Chandan Jain from Hubli in Karnataka. He says, I have bought Tata Communication at 1880 levels. So, should I continue to hold or book losses? I actually can hold for long term. So, what would be the right advice? Tata Communication, 1880 is the purchase level, Rahul here.
Unfortunately, 1880 say 1300, lot of heartache, I'm sure, for the investor.
Yes.
But I wouldn't suggest to exit it right now. Again, for the simple reason that it's come to an interesting level, and most of the pain has already been weathered by the gentleman. Continue to hold on. How far your level will come about is anybody's guess, because it's 400 rupees away, and it's very difficult to give targets which are
Absolutely.
400 rupees away. So my simple recommendation right now, of course, subject to him checking with an advisor as well, is to hold on.
Is to hold on. Okay, fine. We'll take some other questions. This is Roshan Pradhan. He wants to know a view on one of the recently listed stocks. So the charts will be limited. This is International Gemological Institute, a company that's focused on lab-grown diamonds. Recently, the company came out with the earnings, and post that also there was a lot of pressure on the stock. Any suggestion on this one? You would have very limited charts to study here, but overall, if you look at the lab-grown diamond space and the company's business and fundamentals currently, what would you be able to suggest here?
So very important for people to understand that just because they see a DMart store everywhere does not mean it becomes a good stock to buy. The future of lab grown diamonds is actually very promising, I believe, in India. But it is also important to understand at what price did IGI list? What is the future of the company with respect to revenue? And it is only not what meets the eye. Keeping that in perspective, I wouldn't advise him to enter IGI at all. In fact, from the time the IPO happened, the stock went up a little bit and has halved since. So not only has it eroded money for investors who have entered at the IPO level or on IPO day, it has lost almost 55% of its ground. Definitely a no from entering perspective.
Okay, fair point. There's another question from Satya. He says, I want to know on the capital goods space, Siemens or ABB or Thermax, which is the better stock for the long term at the current levels? Which one should I be looking at, Siemens, ABB or Thermax?
So Siemens unfortunately does not give us any interesting signs on the chart. I would say if at all that he has to take a pick out of the three, although all three look very dismal, I don't know why
Yeah.
he's picked up these three names. He can look at ABB, but very important to understand that this is the best out of the worst. So
Yeah.
don't expect just because I'm saying ABB that ABB is going to jump around, turn around, and move up 10% every day. That's not going to happen. The chart is equally dismal, and I would suggest that if he's a short-term trader, to look at some FMCG names or even Tata
Okay.
Motors. If
Okay.
he's long-term, to look at public sector banks, to look at Reliance, to look at L&T, as I suggested earlier. But if he's hell-bent on one of the three, ABB would be my pick.
Okay, fair point. In fact, on Reliance Industries, which you had marked out, a lot of viewers who are stuck at higher levels, the stock is already down, what, 30% from its peak. I wanted to understand, is this the right level to start accumulating and probably putting in some lump sum funds as well?
Yes, this would be the right time to start accumulating. So let's say if somebody is looking to invest a lakh of rupees,
Yeah.
once he checks with his own advisors, I think one third can be entered at this point in time. That is something that can be done.
Okay, fair point. Well, we'll wind up taking the questions, but an outlook on the markets is important to understand. Are the top 2 or 3 sectors that you are most bullish on from here on, Rahul? What would those sectors be?
Don't think sectors as a whole is the right way to play this market. Stock
Okay.
specific is better to play this market. Markets as a whole, like I said, until 23,000, you see a closing above it. It is continuing to be sell on rallies or stay away. If you want to go long above 23,000. If you want to go short below 22,000. The whole 22 to 23 range, you might be surprised that this sideways move can continue for some time. And 2025 as a whole, like I mentioned earlier in the show, can be a very sideways move with no sharp moves on either side. Keeping that in mind, I think that's why more prudent to be stock specific.
Okay, fair point. I'm going to be giving you some names within the cement space. There is this news that Competition Commission of India has approved the proposed acquisition of over 72.8% shareholding of Orient Cement by Ambuja Cements. So this was already in the works, finally got the approval. I want to understand on the cement space, what's the entire outlook that you have? Recently, we've seen the largest player, Ultratech, diversify as well into cables and wires. Erstwhile we were looking at, of course, a lot of M&A activities to take place too, with Grasim coming in. What would you really look at, and how would you look at the entire space here?
I don't find the cement space good from the chart perspective at all. That is number one. If at all you're looking to enter something in the cement space, my money would be on Ultratech Cement. Ultratech Cement has on the monthly chart a nice rounding bottom from which the previous time you had a breakout. Even current markets, it is currently at that level. Now, remember, I'm talking about the monthly chart. So the investment horizon or time horizon is more than a year. But if we had to take a pick, I would take my pick on Ultratech Cement out of the entire pack.
Okay, fair point. Well, Rahul, we'll leave you at that. Thank you so much for being with us in the session today to advise all our viewers with all their questions and answering patiently all their queries as well. Always appreciate your presence. Thank you so much for being with us on our daily calls today. All right, viewers, we'll wrap it up at that on this special note as far as daily calls is concerned. But do stay tuned. There's a lot more for you to track throughout the course of the day. Well, finally, brighter days in the markets and what should your strategy be? Keep in mind all of those, and we will be back with several other market shows that are lined up till 3:30. Stay tuned.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
work.
millions of people.
You think